This looks promising. We might be able to make a stable reactor here. Oh, that is bad. Hello everybody and welcome back to some more Oceanblock. Don't question why I'm wearing the Santa hat right now. This is the final video I recorded before Christmas time, so you know, it's gonna be very fun, and I mean Christmas Day specifically. So today's plan, we're going to ignore any other things. There's been nothing that I have done in between episodes. We're jumping straight into the plans today for some very special reasons, which will be explained later. Oh, and by the way, I've got some bad news once we're done, so y'all better be prepared. What are we gonna be doing today? Well, we're going to be doing something that may or may not stop the series right here. We're going to be making something that's going to be incredibly risky. It's going to be called the draconic reactor. Some of you may know what this is, some of you may not. For those of you who don't know what this is, you're in for a treat. But before we can even make this thing, we're first going to need to make some of its components. One of the components is going to be this thing called the reactor energy injector, and then 4 of these reactor stabilizers, which means I'm going to need 4 of these chaotic cores. But you know what? This is okay because we already have everything that we are going to need. I may or may not need to fight another Chaos Guardian, but you know what, that should be fine. I'm just gonna take these cores right out of here. In order to make these components, it's going to involve a lot of fusion crafting at the chaotic tier. Now, fortunately for me, all of my fusion injectors are at the chaotic level, and I have 12 of these things. So hopefully, that should be more than enough. But first and foremost, we're going to need to make 12 of these thingies right here, the reactor stabilizer inner motor. I don't know if you know what's the deal with this thing. Like, is this a block? Can I place it down? I can't, it's just a holy thing. Anyways, now we're going to need 8 of these ones right here. Far less than of the orange one. Oh my goodness, I think that one might be bigger. Oh yeah, it's way bigger. Then we're going to need to make 4 of these cores for immediacy. And then we're going to make everything all together. And then with this, we get ourselves the reactor stabilizer rotor assembly. There we go. I said it right, yay! The next thing we're going to need is a reactor stabilizer frame. I'm actually going to need 4 of these things. Then we're also going to need to make 4 of these reactor stabilizing focus rings, and that should be all for the initial craftables. Although I will need the flux gate also. I'm going to need 2 of those. And then with those together, we then get our 2 flux gates. There we go. These will be important for later. So for this thing, we're going to need a wyvern core, 4 of these reactor stabilizer inners, and then 4 of these draconium ingots with 2 iron, which I now have. And really then all that's left for me to do is to just start putting these things in right here. I think this should be it, or wait, no, I forgot I needed to put these things in. You guys keep slipping my mind, you know that? You're all so tiny and insignificant. You mean nothing to me. Oh shoot, I think it's working. It is working, yes! Wow, wait, that didn't take much power at all. How much did that take? 16 million OP? Wow, that's so little. What about this one? Also 16 million. Does this one also? Nope, that takes 64 million. Still though, that's pretty good. Okay, there we go. We got the reactor energy infuser. Thankfully, we only need 1 of those. This next thing, though, we are going to need 4 of. So it looks like we're going to need 4 of these draconic energy controllers. Then we're just going to need to make some of the chaotic cores, which then means we're also going to need to make some draconic cores. I'm very likely going to have to fight the dragon again. Okay, well, I'll see you all once I got all of those chaotic cores. Alrighty, well that took forever, but we finally got all the chaotic cores. So now all that's left is for us to just make these reactor stabilizers. So we're just going to need to throw those boys right into there, and we really just need to find everything their proper placements. It's much nicer for the ones that I don't have to divide up, because then I don't need to figure them out. Oops, wrong thing. But once I place these last few things inside of here, this should be good. And yes, there we go. And apparently this also, it takes very little power. I mean, it really doesn't matter once you're generating 55 million OP a tick, but you know what? At the end of the day, very soon we're going to be generating even more, or none at all. But with this last one right here, we now have our final one right here. There we go, all 4 of the reactor stabilizers. So now that all those are out of the way, the last thing that we need is the reactor core itself, which takes 4 awakened draconium, 3 normal draconium, 2 large chaos fragments, and then 1 chaos shard inside of the main thing in order to get that. Fortunately, I did in fact have everything, and I do not, I repeat, not have to fight the Chaos Guardian again. All in all, though, it's not a very terrible fight once you know what you're doing, but before you know what you're doing, oh gosh, I have PTSD from that. It like haunts my nightmares now. You just see the looming pixelations over herself just in your sleep. It'd be so creepy. What a sleep demon. But with all that together, we now got all of the pieces that we're going to need. We've gotten the energy injectors, we've gotten the reactor stabilizers, and we have the core itself. It looks like I'm holding a dying star. What is this? This thing looks like it's about to blow up. And, it very well could. So in order for me to do this properly, we're going to first want to get myself some placement blocks. Dirt probably should do just fine. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to place this down anywhere. There's no real center to these kinds of islands, so this will not be symmetrical no matter what you do. And then we want this to be at least 4 high, but it can be up to 8. So starting from here, we got 1, 2.
You get the idea.
And then right here, we can put the core. And then we just break the rest of that down. And this should be fine. We will find out soon enough once we have all the things together. We cannot know until we place them all down.
1 minute, 37 seconds later.
Next thing we need to do is just break down all that dirt right there. And then we place down on these dirts right over here, all of these stabilizers. And if I did this right, these things should now have a menu. Yes, they did. If I didn't have all these things here, that menu wouldn't have shown up. And I don't think I can access it from the bottom. I can. Okay, that's actually real cool. But we are going to want, like, a hole down here. And this is where we're going to have our flux gates come in. I need to get this. Oh, I can turn it with these things. Yes, okay, so there we go. So for this one right here, we want the arrow to be facing inside of this thing. And I will explain why that is at a later time. And then for another one of these, we will put that right here. We want the arrow to be facing out of it. There we go. And in that one is where we're going to put our flux plug. I'm super scared about doing this because keep in mind, when it comes to reactors in reactor mods and all that, explosions are a necessity at some point, you know? Like, at some point, some sort of reactor has to explode, like this one, for example. If this one exploded, a large radius of area would become irradiated, and a bit of an area around it would become completely devastated. All these things around here would probably be destroyed. This thing maybe wouldn't be completely. Now, that being said, if this thing blows up, everything in this general area is probably going to be gone. There will be almost nothing left. I don't know how big of a radius it is. I just know that it's like thousands of times bigger than that thing over there. So we need to be a little bit careful with this thing. So the next thing that we're going to need to grab is we're going to need to grab some fuel. Now, the fuel isn't actually that big of a problem because it burns the fuel very slowly. So we go into here and then we put the fuel in there. And as you can see right now, it's just a little dinky thing, you know, it's just got a little weird chaos star going on it. It looks like it's about to die. We throw in some of the fuel right here. And then we want to click charge. Okay, so we have it charging, and there we go. Now it is much, much bigger. When it's at this size, you know that it has fuel in it. I don't know if it gets smaller when the fuel burns out, but it should still work all the same. Now, this thing isn't generating anything just yet, due to the fact that we don't actually have any power going into this thing. And you might be thinking, but isn't this supposed to be generating power? Why do you need to spend power on it? There's multiple reasons, but to keep it simple, we need power to keep this thing from blowing up. But we also need to set these flux gates right down here. So for the high signal on this one, we're going to set it to 500,000. And for the low signal, we're going to set it to 250,000. Now, the way that this works is it dictates how much power is able to go through this. So if I grab one of my levers, which I seem to have misplaced. Here we go, I found them. So if I put this thing here and then turn the redstone signals on, now it's going to be on the high signal, which will then mean that it can now allow for 500,000 FE to go through, or RF as this thing says. I don't know what the difference is between RF and FE, but it's just another form of power. So we're only going to have 250 going in normally, and if we need to have more going in, we can then bump it up to the 500,000. And then we can have the same go for these ones right here on the output. Now, the reason why I'm using these things to dictate the power rather than the flux networks in itself, because as some of you might know, these things can already do that on their own. It's just an extra precaution, just because I know I can be rather dumb, and I don't want to deal with that. So then all that's really going to be left to do for right now is to just go ahead and then put down this flux point right in there, and then it should be, yep, it is powering up. That is good. Okay, so the containment field is going up. That's good. We want the containment field to be up. Two things to keep in mind. If some of these stats go too far into a certain direction, this thing will then melt down, and then we'll get the whole blow up. If these things break, any of these things break while this thing is on, it will melt down, and it will blow up. There is so much that can go wrong. There's a good reason why many people do not like to use these, but I'm going to, for the sake of all your entertainment. So we shouldn't really be able to utilize this thing until the energy saturation reaches about 50, and then the core temperature starts to go up. So now all we just gotta do is just wait, because this will take a good bit of time. Alrighty, it's the moment of truth. If this goes wrong, this could be very bad. Oh well, we're just gonna have to deal with it. Here we go. It's online. Oh, that is bad. That is bad. Shutting down, shutting down, shutting down. Oh. Oh. Dude, that could have been really bad. So let's try turning this thing on. We'll leave the SAS off now since both of these temperatures need to be met where it needs to be less than 250. We'll try activating it. Containment field is going up. Core temperature is remaining the same. And power is going out. Okay, well, I mean, as long as the containment field is up, this thing shouldn't blow up as far as I know. And yeah, the energy is going down. That's good. So if I switch this thing over, so that way now it's going to be taking out more, is that okay? It does look like it's okay-ish. The containment field is draining, but I don't know if that's just because it's going down to equalize, or if that's because it's going down because this is too much for it. We're gonna have some issues here, but it's gonna be fine. So if this gets lower than 50%, I will then switch this back. That's all we can really do. But so far, this looks promising. We might be able to make a stable reactor here. We still want more power to get to this thing. And the way that I think we can make more power get to this thing is if we reduce how much we're putting in the shield, because we're putting both of them at 500,000. So while this thing is stable, it's just that the power's going out from this thing into there, straight back into that thing. So we gain nothing from this. At this point, it's mostly like a trophy or just like a really cool light bulb. We don't want that. We need to go big or go home. So I bumped this thing up to 350,000 RF. So hopefully this one will also be fine. And it's going to start going down very rapidly. But so long as this remains above 50%, we should still be okay. With just the 350 RF going in there, we should be fine. Because with 350 going in there, I believe that means that we're gaining about like a profit of 150,000. So hopefully that'll be good. Oh gosh, that is a creeper. Oh, we do not want him to get anywhere near that thing. Oh my gosh, like I said, if any of those things get destroyed while this is going on, that whole thing will blow up. This one creeper could destroy everything. No, you die. Oh my gosh. I came back after going to sleepy sleep just to, you know, get some daytime lights going on. And this is what we face? Oh my gosh, game. I think we're gonna be fine. That's all I can really do with this. Because, I mean, it's just like, at this point, there's really no more to go off of with this. Since we have done this, this is a very grand achievement. You really don't see people do this much anymore. At least not since the old version of this mod, but either way, this is pretty good. We've managed to achieve something incredibly great here, and yes, it has definitely 100% equalized. So, you might be wondering, why did I do this? I mean, a lot of these other things have way better power generation. This thing, for crying out loud, is generating millions. And this thing, I'm only getting like 150,000 out of it. Like, this thing is puny for such a high risk. Like, I mean, that's just a recipe for disaster. And that was kind of the whole point of this. Just for the fact that this could have easily gone entirely wrong if I can mess this thing up. That's the whole reason I did this. I wanted to see if I could manage to contain probably the most destructive thing in all of modded Minecraft. And I have. At the very least for now, this thing is okay, and it will continue to stay that way. Now then, if you recall, I believe I said that there was gonna be some bad news, didn't I? I want to run y'all through something real quick. You see this thing right here? This is all the end game achievements. These are all the singularities that I was going to be making and all that, so that way we could get the ultimate singularity, so that way we could get the creative item. A creative item that I wanted was going to be this creative vending upgrade, which when you put it inside of a drawer, as long as it has the thing inside of it, like say, you know, we have these things right here, we put that then in there, and then it basically becomes a creative source of all that. It is then have infinite amounts that can be pulled out. Even if there is nothing in here, if you had like a locked thing with a recipe that was at 0, you could then put it in, and then you'd have infinite amounts of those. The problem with all of this though is, all of the things that we're going to need if we continue to go down the line takes a whole lot of other creative items first, which, you know, at first I thought was okay, but then I started looking into how many of these singularities I was actually going to need. In order for me to be able to get this creative vending upgrade from going to all of these different previous creative ones, I was going to need 222 of each of the singularities. Now, I don't know about all of you, but these things are a little lacking, especially with all of like the really slow ones, like some of these ones over here, Wyvern Energy Core, which is pretty much why I've made the executive decision, since this pretty much is just all over the place, I've decided that I'm not going to go for these things, and in fact, we're just going to end this off with just a personal achievement of mine, which has been to make one of these cores. Honestly, I wasn't a huge fan of the whole singularity game thing here in the first place, because I mean, like, it's just a bunch of grinding for singularities to a point to where you just have to spend a bunch of time and investments into this, which I really don't have. Even back when I played Stoneblock 3, that thing also had something like this where it had singularities that you had to do at the end game, and I really wasn't even able to achieve the final achievements without finding a duplication glitch. As much as it pains me, I really don't want to do this. I really wish I could have done more with this, but this is going to have to be the end of FTB Oceanblock. I honestly did not expect this to be coming so soon. I would have loved to have gotten so much more out of this, but at the end of the day, with all these things being just so terrible to get, we just really can't do it. Even if this thing did blow up, I wouldn't have really complained, since it would have kind of made us go off with a bang, if you will. But at the end of the day, I think we did good here. So, listen, if you all enjoyed Oceanblock, be sure to hit that like button and that subscribe button, and be sure to check out the whole series and be on the lookout for the next series, which I honestly have no idea what's going to be, since we already have another modded series going on right now. So this could be troublesome, but we'll have to wait and see. Hope you all enjoyed the series, and I hope you all have a good day. Bye-bye!